All our stairs are the same size, so we make a steel frame mold. The steel frame mold allows us to cast the first piece, which is anchored into the ground with rebar and extra cement, so that's our anchoring place. We then weld metal frames that are going to be floating, and these metal frames are entering in from one step to the other, and what they do is they allow us to have the stairs float, absolutely floating. The next thing we do is, one of the most important secrets to what we do is we use sand to cast our levels. So as you can see here, I'm removing the sand and exposing that 5 centimeters of space where we're going to put lighting behind, so the stairs look like they're absolutely floating at night with the lighting system we're putting behind it. So one thing I had to advise about that, when you have a fresh stair like that, just take away like maybe at the most 5 to 6 centimeters so that you don't have the cement fall down on you while you're doing that. The carving is taking place on cement that is still quite fresh. So as you see here, don't take too much sand out from underneath the mix, underneath the step. And then you basically can sculpt the edge. That is what I'm doing right now, is you're sculpting the edge to get it to look good. The veining you put in still because it's still fresh enough. And then what I do is I do the cross hatching or the cross veining that makes it look like real limestone, and get rid of all the imperfections on the edges below. Now's the time to do it. You can still go in with a grinder and touch stuff up, that's not a problem, but it's best to just get it as good as you can the first time around. It's interesting too, the sand will suck a lot of moisture out of the mix that you're putting on top of it. Here we're doing step number 3. So we're welding these brackets that are going to hold it in. There's the same mold. We clean it up each time before we put it in. So we align the same. We can't go wrong because we have the same size. This one we had to cut a little bit to go underneath the step, but that's not a problem because we planned that would happen. So now what happened is we did our 5 centimeters of sand, and we're casting on top of the sand with fresh cement. The cement is quite rich. We don't mess around with our mixes. We make them quite dry, loaded with polypropylene, and we go 3 to 1, which is unheard of. Makes the cement super strong, especially staircases, so they don't chip. So when we sprinkle our colors on, we make sure that we try to get the 3 steps to look as close as possible. The bottom step is very dirty because the sand from the other steps are on it now. So with the demolding, what I always do is I start on the sides, I knock it very lightly. The best movement to remove these metal frames is sort of like a very gentle lift up. When you lift it up, it actually doesn't rip cement out with it. So here I'm knocking it till it sort of makes a noise and lets go, and then I lift it up. And if you lift it up straight as you can, it separates nicely and doesn't pull off big chunks out of the mix. It's hard to do sometimes. So here's a rough look at what we get when we pull the frame off, the mold off. So here I'm taking just enough cement out so I can fix up the edge underneath to make it look like the other steps. Don't go too deep because you never know if a big piece will fall off or not. And it's important to do all three sides at least. The back's not so important. We still do a lot of work on the back, but especially getting the fronts and the sides nice is because you can see this from every angle. And it's really important to get the 5 centimeters right on all 3 levels, because when you put the lighting on it, it shows any errors that could, you know, show up. You have like 7.5 inches and 5 inches, very different. Here I'm putting white Portland cement on the face of it again, and basically it's very random, but you leave a little bit of the gray still showing. And since it's so wet, it actually pulls in a lot of the color. Here I'm using a rougher sand that we actually mix the cement with, so it's very similar to the cement itself, which makes it look really realistic. So the bottom step is quite heavy. It's going to be filled up with gravel, so it's going to have the same 16 centimeters as the other steps, but we need it anchoring the 3 steps because they're completely free floating. Here I'm punching in the vertical veining, and this really makes it look like limestone when it gets to age a little bit. It looks really good that way. Now you have to be careful when you demold. You kind of have to have a bit of experience to understand when's the best time to take these faces off. Here we're taking everything away so we can actually show you. I would like to show, you know, it 10 days from now, but I want to get this video out, so it's best to just show you now. So we're hauling out enough so you can see the